Hi, my name is Matthew Littman, and it is March 18th. We are in the thick of it. This pandemic. It's a beautiful day. I'm outside. Couldn't be inside anymore. I'm going to do a little reading here for National Poetry Month, which is next month. Most of the poems I will read are from my new book, Mesmerizingly Sadly Beautiful, from Four Way Books. You can pick it up at Four Way. I think it's www.fourwaybooks.org. Just Google it. Some of the birds are here. So, the first poem I'm going to read actually is one that I wrote today called Pandemic. I actually wrote it about 15 minutes ago. And it goes like this. You know that moment when Chris Isaak sings World Was on Fire? Remember when you sat in a beach chair and had that cold Labatt's with all your fingertips in the sand? They were trying to dig to China, but you didn't know it. You saw the sailboats out on the surf and wondered about whales or sharks. When you were a little kid, you wondered about tsunamis but called them tidal waves. Remember the first time you saw Chris Isaak's pretty face and thought about Chet Baker? You were such a boy then, and your beer was cold between the droplets of sun. You didn't have a girlfriend. Truth is, you might have never wanted one. The world was on fire in your beach chair, and the sound of waves and the long neck bottle dripping with the droplets of sun, and everything was full of heat. The bikinis and the ladies lingering at the shoreline. The dogs and big-breasted boys who had no tattoos. The ocean was on fire, and the lifeguards, and being alone was on fire, and China was on fire. You could feel it in your fingertips. It was summer, and we were all burning, blazing, everyone ablaze, outside, close to one another, touching, tambourining, singing with Chris Isaak up there on the hot stage. So close, we knew the only way to turn up the heat, to get more sweaty, was to move in tight and share the mic. Oh, how I miss sharing the mic. So that's what's going on these days. I hope you're all safe and well and healthy. All right, the next poem I'm going to read is one called Bodies Are Things to Rescue Themselves. My body is not a skateboard. It is not the Emancipation Proclamation. The sun tenderizes my hands. They wrinkle. They shine. My body is not the Golden Gate Bridge. It's not a Wurlitzer at the fingertips of Bernie Worrell. I sit in the sun and it bakes my face off. I am tired of women getting punished for being women. My body is not a fallen tree. It is not Toni Morrison or the neighbor who fights fires and rides the backs of ambulances to save the day. My Lord is not my body, and my body is not my Lord. It is a sense of self in the sunshine. When my daughter caught her body falling down the stairs, she stopped it. Bodies are things to rescue themselves and other bodies next to them. This is the reason for arms and lungs and all the other parts that go chug and chime. I realized this in the body of Newman Street, when I was so fully inside of my body I was outside of my skin. We have them to stop pain, even in the destruction of those around us. My body hurts in the sun, the knees spit, the elbows ricochet off bone and spur. When the phlegm comes up, the whole throat is a broken piece of beef. When the bird's body was going to die in the crawl space, I crawled into the crawl space to let it free. It speared my cheek with its beak, but I held it. Then I let its body go, and it was gone. My back hurt for days. In the sun, I can still feel that hurt. It goes back centuries. The Romans, the Spanish Inquisition, the slave owner and his whip against the back of the black man's neck. In the sun, my body feels nice. It percolates. It is warm and reaches out across San Francisco Bay to feel the body of San Anselmo. It puts its arms across the jungle and gets its hands sliced off. I am here to help, it says in the sunshine. In the sunshine, the body emulates the sunshine. And here is a poem called The Ocean is a Flower called Roberto Clemente. I miss baseball. I think we all miss baseball. We may not know it, but we all miss it. Even that dog. And that siren. This is the best. Poetry readings in the backyard. The ocean is a flower called Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente kicked my ass last night. He came out of the darkness like a train whistle, with his 21 Pittsburgh jersey tucked in, and laid me out with a left hook. I fell to the grass and screamed, "What's your problem, Roberto?" Couldn't sleep, he said. Get a motel. He said, my plane crashed. I am dead. Go home. He said, I come from Carolina, Puerto Rico. So what's the problem? He said, my name is Roberto. I have 3 sons and 3,000 base hits. My name is Roberto Clemente. And when his plane took off from San Juan, overloaded with bananas and gauze for the earthquake victims of Managua, it was New Year's Eve, and his eyes were bloodshot bullets under the canopy of the Atlantic Ocean. When the sharks got their teeth into him, the turtles, the manatees and stingrays, the vapor trail of his gait around second base brushed back the wind. 10 hours later, my father woke me to say El Padre Roberto no longer swings for the fences. I was 7. I have been 7 ever since. And here is a poem. I think it'll be the last poem. Yes. It's called If You Don't Want Your Kids to Have Sex, Do Not Finish the Basement. I actually stole this line from a guy named Lev at a Shabbat dinner a couple years ago. We were sitting next to one another. He said this. I'm like, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. If you don't want your kids to have sex, don't finish the basement. This guy Lev at the dinner party said, if you don't want your kids to have sex, don't finish the basement. I don't remember anything anymore. My 52-year-old brain a soggy piece of kale. But I remembered what Lev said. It's because Lev is the heart in Lvov, where all the stories come from. Here's the story. We were eating the salmon, and he was talking about his kids, all grown up, and my kids were in the basement playing ping pong, not yet 13. There was beer and wine and gluten-free challah and gluten-free tiramisu, and the walls were red and gluten-free. That's the whole story. The other story is that when a guy says something like that, you have to remember where you were when you first had sex. It could have been in a car in an attic between 2 trees under the moon near the factory, inside the deep blue sea, in the onion patch. Sex is an onion. It's a translucent and sweet thing and will make you cry your face off. It's a swimming pool on fire and a gorilla who knows how to speak 7 languages. If you are lucky enough to have sex in a finished basement, this is a good thing. If you have sex in an unfinished basement, not so good. All that dust, those exposed water heaters, boilers, and rusted rakes. So when Lev said, if you don't want your kids to have sex, don't finish the basement, I took a bite of my salmon, and here's the last part of the story. My kids are going to grow up and have sex. A sad and wide-eyed, ecstatic sex, if they're lucky. And so I left the table in the dark middle of winter to finish the basement. Buy some rugs, some cheap pillows, and a jukebox. One of those old school Wurlitzers with the automatic eye. Fill it up with all the songs that make your heart burst, I will tell them. Play your music, till the needle runs those records bare, bone, beauty, and glisten. So I wish you all well. Hope we can touch one another or be close to one another sooner rather than later. And in the meantime, stay safe. Thank you for listening. And once again, Mesmerizingly Sadly Beautiful, Four Way Books. You can get some other fantastic of their new releases that came out this spring. John Murillo's Contemporary American Poem, Alice Bennett White's The Wendy's, Tommy Blunt's new collection. I think it's called A Fantasia of Blue Men. Anyway, again, stay safe and be well.